Ever since a baby, I've been trying to get away, trying to lock in the guap, trying to block with the pain. I'm a blind little boss, I'm on top of the game. I've been plotting a lot, now I'm tossing your bait. Yeah, my pops got caught, didn't lock them away. My mom fought hard, 5 jobs in a day. I'll be dropping the box, but I'm copping the pain. We off to the stars, we're a tropical place. Ooh, yeah, I'm spitting it heavy, the mission is steady. Your bitch is a jelly, I'm ditching the petty. You're digging for pennies, I'm itching to ready. I open my heart when I listen to Shetty. I'm bold like a boss, but I'm little like Debbie. I know what the bros, I got Richard and Getty. I'm holding the guap and I'm whipping the Yeti, yeah, Kari can play with advanced moves. I'm fucking my girl and her man too. I'm taking the ball like the Rand do. My soul is the one that I can't lose. I soak up the sun like a sand dune. I'm holding up love with the bamboo. I'm rolling the blunt by the candle. Taking the game, running it back without taking a drink. Yeah, I'm the one and I'm making a wave. Rolling the blunt and I'm blazing a J. I'm escaping the brain, go straight for the cake. I'ma take to the bank, now taking a break. I'm made for the race, I pray for the day. I wake with a bake in a great estate.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Jay, that's Maddie, and we are going to talk some NFC West, but we always got news and notes to start off the show.
Yeah, so this is meant to be the NFC West off-season breakdown show, but it's actually turned out that there's only one team in the NFC West that's really worth talking about at the moment because they've decided to completely blow everything up. That's the Seattle Seahawks. We'll get to them when we get to them. But also, Jay, is free agency legal tampering eve, which is my favorite, personally, one of my favorite eves of the year, rivals New Year's and Christmas as well. But it's great because we have loads of news coming out about that as well, including DK Metcalf being traded to the Steelers, Devontae Adams going to the Rams. We'll talk about the Rams as well. We've got Josh Allen signing a new contract, and we have Myles Garrett signing a new contract. So what a crazy time of year to be a football fan.
Yeah, and Aaron Jones stays with the Minnesota Vikings. I know everybody's going to hear the 2 years 20. It's really 2 years 13 because there's some really like Super Bowl bonus. And they'll happily pay him 20 if he reaches all those bonuses. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, Jay. I just wonder when we get around to this kind of year, the NFL is just a masterclass in sports advertising. Like they've just nailed every part of this because the NFL is it's actually a ridiculously short season compared to everybody else's.
But it's year round.
Yeah, but they found a way to make it completely year round. It's incredible, and you would think. So the reason that soccer is such a thing it's such a big thing is because it's all the time, like it's constant. Like I've just watched Man United tonight. I'm gonna watch Sunderland on Wednesday. I'm then going to watch Man United again on Thursday and all of that kind of stuff. And it's just games after game. The NBA have tried the same thing. Sometimes absence makes the heart grow fonder. And you see that, especially in this time of year when the NFL has just got everybody thinking about, oh, what can happen? What's going on? And also it means that you're always excited at this time of year because your team hasn't had the opportunity to show you how bad they are yet.
You know, I love free agency. I love the draft. I hate that some of the guys you really want re-signed, they get re-signed, but it's in the next 3 days because the teams let them go out and see what they're worth. Like I'm going through this right now because the way it sounds, the Vikings really want to sign Byron Murphy. Byron Murphy thinks he's going to get like $23 million a year. I guess the Vikings are around 20. So they're like, go out, see what you can get, and come back to us. Like, and he's like, cool. So, like, it's that kind of shit that's like, man, if we lose this motherfucker over $1 million or $2 million, you know, that kind of shit. So it's nerve-wracking, but it's exciting because then when it, like, I got home today and I look and I see Aaron Jones resigns. I was like, well, that's exciting because I wanted that to happen.
Yeah, like the Cowboys. So on my side of things, the Cowboys are clearing out a load of cap space. And all of Cowboys Nation is currently going delusional, thinking that Jerry being all in is them actually being all in this year, which is exciting. It feels like they're actually going to try and do something in free agency for the first time in a long, long time.
But now, with what he just said,
no, go on.
He said that we are not going to address our needs in free agency.
Great, thank you very much, Jerry. Really appreciate that as always. Maybe he's learning. Maybe he's going, oh, maybe if I don't sell out exactly what I'm going to do, I'm not going to have to pay top dollar to try and do exactly what I'm going to do. And maybe that's what's happening.
And maybe he should stop trying to lowball his draft picks and sign them early. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second because Jay, let's just talk about the Myles Garrett contract. This thing is record breaking, 40 million a year. However ridiculous, it's a ridiculous amount in guarantees as well, and it's just the Browns once again breaking the contract cycle for every other owner in the NFL, making them again a really hated place. But Jay, was this the right decision for the Browns to pay this amount of money to Myles Garrett?
No. But it does hurt the Bengals. Like, it really hurts the Bengals because Jamar Chase wants to be the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL. So does Jamar Chase now want $40+ million because they waited to sign him in Cincinnati? No, I have a problem with the contract because they're stuck with Deshaun Watson next season too, because the restructure they just did, if they cut him next season, they owe like $195 million in cap. Like, the fucker. So you're stuck with it for the next 2 years. The more and more it sounds is they're going to go after a quarterback, which makes complete sense.
Yeah.
But if I was them, I would have dumped Garrett for a couple firsts, right? I would have waited to see what happened with Tennessee. It sounds like Shadur is their guy, like that's who they want, but that would be smokescreen. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, that's what they want. Even if he goes number 1, then you replace Myles Garrett with Carter at 2. You still have another first-round draft pick that you can go get Dart, or you can wait till the second round and get somebody else. But I think with the cap hell you're in already, you put yourself in more cap hell when you could have alleviated some of it starting next year, because they would have took a hit from Garrett this year. But then you would have had draft picks to build off of too, while you get out from underneath this awful contract that you have with Deshaun Watson. Like, they're literally 3 years away from being done paying that, because even after the 2 years, they have dead money on the void end that they have to eat. So they're literally 3 seasons away. They're not till 2028. They're still eating fucking contract, Sean. And I don't get why you don't take the draft picks and why you keep piling up. And I also don't understand, if you're Myles Garrett, did they just say we're not going to trade you? Because I'd want the fuck out of Cleveland. I don't know.
Yeah, I think with that, if somebody throws, I don't think Myles Garrett would have got 40 million anywhere else.
Me neither, but happiness has to cost something.
Yeah, but he has said multiple times, and I mean, you would say this, wouldn't you, that he does actually quite like living in Cleveland. He said it's not, but
I've been to Cleveland. I mean, I'm just telling you, I've been to Cleveland, okay? And I don't understand what there is really to be, unless you think Lake Erie, the dirtiest of the Great Lakes, is the best place, beautiful. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm surprised. It's also 123 million in guaranteed money on a defensive end who's going into his 30s, which is not the move that I would personally make if I'm in the situation that the Browns are in as well. That's the thing here. If this was okay, we're pushing for a Super Bowl window, we've got a quarterback on a rookie deal, we know the cap's going to go up anyway. Then maybe you make the move. If this was the Commanders paying 40 million to get Myles Garrett, you go, that's a little pricey for me, but okay. That's where it would be.
Even the Bills or the Ravens, who have paid their quarterback, you're okay, you're on the verge. You need to get past Kansas City. You just mortgage the future right now to get, I get that. But for a team that's struggling, and I think that's what you're saying, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. And they're in and look, Browns fans are going to be really, really happy, but I feel like it's a move from the Browns ownership to say, oh, look, things are all good. Oh, look, things are all good. We kept hold of Myles Garrett. It's no, man, things are not good. You did one of the worst contracts in NFL history with Deshaun Watson. And look, you can make a mistake, but is the NFL mantra is don't compound the mistake, right? If you fumble it, just drop on it. Don't try and pick it up and do anything with it, right? That's the NFL mantra. And the Browns have just compounded this mistake here, because I think you can. I agree with you. I think they should be taking. I think it would be a perfect draft for them if they get out with Abdul Carter and then Jalen Milroe in the second round. Use their first round pick for any
But
weapons or anything like this. But they'll still have the
another
options for
first round.
Shador.
But they'd have another first round pick if they got rid of Myles Garrett. So like Dart's even in play, or maybe you package something to go get Shador. Maybe Shador slips. Like
I have seen there's some stuff about Shador Sanders draft stock falling and things like that. And if you like Shador Sanders, look, I don't think he gets past the Giants personally. I think the Giants will be taking Shador Sanders. So you either have to get him at 2 or you have to trade with the Giants, which will be a massive trade package. But it doesn't make a lot of sense to me to let Myles Garrett walk. Especially, look, star defensive ends are a really big deal. Myles Garrett, TJ Watt, Micah Parsons, they can make a defense by themselves. Like, I get it. I do understand it. But you can do defensive line by committee. Like you can do that. That is something that is available to you. Like the Rams have done that with their new rookie draft picks. The Vikings do it currently as well, and they're 2 of the top defenses in the NFC.
What about the fact that you'll probably be able to get Kirk Cousins on a fucking veteran minimum contract too? Like you could worry about your quarterback next year because this isn't the deepest quarterback draft anyway. Like you could just use these draft picks to rebuild your team like the Texans. And then and Myles Garrett could be your Deshaun Watson, say, for the Texans, right? That gives you all this capital, and you're going to get more than 1 first-round pick. So you have 2 picks next year that you can move up and get a quarterback or something. Like you don't even have to address the quarterback right this season because nobody thinks you're going anywhere anyway.
Yeah, I think they're in an interesting position to develop a rookie quarterback where if you get like a guy who's been there, but like Jameis Winston, Kirk Cousins, Joe Flacco, like those kind of guys, just to get in there, show the guy how to do it professionally. You're in a good position to take a Jalen Milroe because you're going to need someone to play their quarterback for that second and third year. Like you can't afford to pay a quarterback. You can't afford to, like they cannot afford it. They have to have a rookie quarterback. So Shador Sanders, I think, will be going to the Browns looking at this contract signing. I think that's just where it's at because all the noise coming out of Tennessee is it's Cam Ward, and then it has to be Shador Sanders for the Browns here. And if they don't take him there, then I'm not sure what the whole point was in doing.
Yeah, otherwise you do like Will Howard because he's an Ohio guy, bring in a Kirk Cousins and develop him. I'm higher on Will Howard than a lot of people though. So, but yeah, I don't understand the Myles Garrett signing is what this all boils down to for them.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense for them and for the rest of the league. Like owners must be seething with the Browns ownership right now. Like just in general, owners must be seething with the Browns ownership because at least the Deshaun Watson contract has gone so badly that I think quarterbacks won't really be asking for that. So that's good for NFL owners, I guess. But this contract now, it like as you said at the start of the show, Jamar Chase now has to get 40. There was no way that Myles Garrett was going to get 40 million anywhere. But now all of the players who aren't quarterbacks, who want to be the highest paid non-quarterback, have to go over 40 million, which with quarterback going to 60 now. So it's Jamar Chase, and that's on the Bengals for not getting that deal done earlier. But it's Michael Parsons again on the Cowboys for not getting the deal done earlier. But the Cowboys cannot afford to pay Michael Parsons that amount of money. Like they cannot afford it. Their contract does not work like that.
If they would have signed him after his 3rd year for that 28 to 30 million, it'd be looking a whole lot better right now.
Yeah. As soon as Max Crosby got signed, I was like, oh, fuck, we're in trouble now. Like we're in a lot of trouble. But like Micah, like the Cowboys can't afford to pay this much. Like the Cowboys might have to just go for a fully guaranteed deal to try and get the actual cap number like down for where they are where they're at with Micah. So what do you think this means for kind of like the rest of the league? I also think like teams like the Eagles, the Lions, the Commanders who were in for him like must be kind of pissed off as well, right?
I told you in the group chat, I'm glad he resigned. I thought that motherfucker was going to end up with the Lions, and that's the last thing I wanted to see. So I was like, whoa, okay. Um, I don't know. Like the Eagles are probably just like whatever, right? Because the Eagles just
Mm.
figure it out. The Commanders are building, but you know what? If you could spread that 40 million over 4 or 5 guys that help your team, that's probably better for the Commanders in the long run because they're in a rebuild. I think their offense is in a good place, but like they're on a defensive rebuild and young team up and coming. If you
Yeah.
can spread that money around, is probably in the long run going to be better.
Yeah, that O-line rebuild for the Commanders as well, just making sure to protect Jalen Daniels as much as possible. So, yeah, and you don't want to give up the draft capital that would have taken. I can't see anybody have given up 40 million for Myles Garrett.
No,
I
but I
don't think
could
they
have
would
seen
have.
him getting 35, 36, becoming
Yeah,
the
yeah.
highest, and I could have seen it be 5 draft picks, 2 firsts, and then whatever the fuck else you can
Mm.
get. But the NFL is weird. You can only trade out 3 years in the NFL, so you have to make that. But I could have seen them getting a couple thirds, and like they could have really rebuilt their team.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's just a crazy. That's such a
It
crazy
doesn't make them a
move.
contender.
It doesn't do anything for the Browns. Like it does nothing for them. Like they're the same as they are. They are the same as they were last year, but they've now just mortgaged their ability to get any better at any other positions. Like it makes no it makes no
I
sense. It's
get
the kind
fans
of
not wanting him to go. I absolutely get that.
yeah, yeah.
Fortune fact, first ballot Hall of Famer. The only blemish on his whole record is when he tried to kill Mason Rudolph. Like, I
Mm.
get that. I get like why you would want him because he seems like, besides that one incident, we've all done some shit we regret in our life. He's a really good dude. And so I get you don't want to get rid of those guys, but man, at some point you got to be realistic.
Yeah, definitely. Um, Jay, a player who kind of those teams who are looking for that Myles Garrett player, there is a player now on the market after being released by the Buffalo Bills. Von Miller, obviously no longer at the stage of his career where he can be compared to Myles Garrett in terms of ability, but that experienced defensive end, and he'll be on a much cheaper deal. Can you see anybody making a move for Von Miller like after his release from the Buffalo Bills?
I know where I think he should end up.
Yeah, go
I
on.
think he should end up with the Texans. I don't think you have to play, but part time, like you come in on pass downs. You don't have to be the every down guy. Like that's what I think Von Miller should do. Like I could see Von Miller helping a team like the Chiefs. I could see Von Miller on a team, not that I think they'll go get him because he's too old, but on a team like the Vikings who do rotational players to keep everybody fresh. I think Von Miller still has a place in the NFL. It's just you're not going to get paid like you're Von Miller. Like, because that's just your name now. You're not Von
Yeah.
Miller anymore, right? But, like, I still think he's better than fucking over half of the guys who rush the passer in the NFL, right? So if you get him on the right team with the right deal, I think he's a perfect fit for somebody, but he's just not Von Miller anymore.
Yeah, the first team that came to mind for me was the Vikings. I thought that would be a really good place for him to go. It's not really your category of player because, as you say, like the age thing, you guys kind of
I'd be happy
like
with it.
get really young. But
I'd be happy.
I think he would make a pretty decent Minnesota Viking in the way that Brian Flores wants to mold his defense, right? Like it's quite a complicated defense, but Von Miller would be able to like get used to that within a week, like 2 weeks. He's like he knows every kind of scheme that's out there. Um, I also had a thought about the Green Bay Packers, though. I thought the Green Bay Packers would be an interesting place for him to go. Quite a
Do you
young
think
roster, quite a young defense, like trying to get younger on the defense. Maybe that experience would help them out as well.
do you think he has to go to a 3-4 though, or do you think he can be a hand in the dirt 4-3 D end?
I think he could be. I think Von Miller will be able to do anything. I think he's just better in a 3-4, but a 4-3. I think he'd be able to. To be honest, Jay, I think he in this league now he's a third down pass rusher. Like that's legitimately where he is. He's a third round pass rusher with the mentor tag, right? He's the guy that makes everybody else around him better on the day to day in the training facility, all of those kind of things as well. So you're buying him for that.
Detroit.
Yeah,
They're losing
I,
Zadarius Smith. They're like, I'm just Detroit.
yeah, just the NFC North really would be pretty good for him to go. But yeah,
Shit,
the
he could be
like
on the Eagles with the way they cycle guys through too.
yeah, definitely make Aiden Hutchinson better. I really do think there's a place for Von Miller in the NFL, so I can see him definitely signing. This isn't the end of Von Miller. Jay, we've already alluded to it a couple of times already, but Josh Allen has re-signed with the Buffalo Bills, raking in the money. And Jay, with this deal, this is a totally different deal to the Myles Garrett deal. The Buffalo Bills were right to do it. Josh Allen deserves it. What do you make of this? What do you make of this deal?
Okay, this isn't hate because get paid, get all the money you can. These fucking contracts are getting into baseball money contracts. 330 million, I think it was, 250 million guaranteed 6-year deal. Like, fucking go get paid, Josh Allen. But and yeah, you have to do it because he is a franchise top quarterback. That's a lot of fucking money. Like, it's just like, wow, are these contracts up there now? But I'm not mad at them. The salary cap keeps going up. And again, I know people fans get mad. I look at it differently. It's like, are you really cheering for this billionaire owner to keep this money? Like, is this what we're cheering for, or is your argument that that player X is not worth what we're paying him, and I'd rather have 2 or 3 players? If that's your argument, I get it. But this hate for guys getting paid is so weird to me because, like, what, you want the billionaire to keep the money? I don't always get that.
Yeah, I always think about that quite a lot because it's often the people who idolize kind of like billionaires and stuff as well, isn't it? Like the people that idolize people like Elon Musk, for example, and stuff that come out and say that. And it's like, is it almost the like that could have been you? Like that person has come from maybe a worse place than you, or like a similar place to you, and now they're making all of this money. And it's like, guys, like this is how much they work. Josh Allen is actually a good return on investment as well
Yes.
for the billionaire owner.
Yes.
Like I do get it. Like Dak Prescott is actually a pretty decent ROI for the
You
Dallas
almost got to
Cowboys.
look at them as stocks.
Yeah, like yeah, they're actually pretty good ROIs. Jersey sales from Josh Allen alone like make up for a decent amount of the money that like that he's getting paid and stuff. The tickets to see a guy like Josh Allen. I mean, Buffalo would kind of sell out their stadium like already, like just because of where they are. But I mean, would they travel? Like, would the media be as interested? Would they
You
get the
wouldn't get
TV right?
that playoff money either, because if you like when they had Tyrod Taylor, they weren't like lighting the world on fire. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and with obviously Buffalo are building a new stadium, right? Yes, Buffalo are building a new stadium. I bet you they sell the naming rights for that a lot more if Josh Allen's playing in it.
Yeah, and the personal licensing to be able to get fucking season tickets and
Yeah.
don't get me started on Buffalo not building a dome though. I already still have a fucking issue with this completely.
Yeah, I kind of love that. Like, I
But
get why
games
you
get
have an issue with it.
canceled because they
No,
can't shovel out the stadium. Like, fuck.
no. I get it. I do get it. It's stupid, but there's something about a snow game in Buffalo that is just you wouldn't want to lose it.
I do get to this point though where like maybe I'm wrong. Maybe everybody else is like, let's just go to all domes with natural grass and let's stop. Like, let's make it an equal playing field across the board. And now we won't have to like work because like I don't like being cold. So maybe I feel like everybody hates being cold, which probably isn't the case.
Yeah, I like the quirkiness of. I kind of love the quirkiness of some of the like NFL stadiums. So like Arrowhead, for example, is just a crazy thing to look at, and like a winter game in Arrowhead, like Buffalo with the snow, like it's
or
great.
how like if you catch a ball in the back of the end zone in Miami, you're gonna die because the wall is literally 3 feet from the end zone.
Yeah, or if you try and catch anything in the AT&T Stadium, you get absolutely blinded by the sun at any time because they've created like the feeling of when you have a magnifying glass and you're trying to burn the ants with it in AT&T Stadium. Yeah. But I never understand that. Josh Allen deserves that money. He's one of the best in the world of what he does, and he's a good ROI for the billionaires.
If Indianapolis is considered the house that Peyton Manning built, then this new stadium has to be considered the house that Josh Allen built.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, it's totally worth the contract as well. Jay, do you think we're getting to a spot now though where the cap is just going up and up and up? Can you see us getting to a point where we get to cap exemptions? I know this is something that the MLS do. So obviously the MLS is trying to compete with a cap, like a salary cap system in a sport that doesn't include salary caps. It's like even baseball, you had hard salary caps. Like you'd be fucked the entire time. You just wouldn't be able to,
right?
You just wouldn't be able to sign any of the best players. It's the same. It's the same in the MLS. But when then they tried to sign Lionel Messi, David Beckham, those players are exempt from the cap because they're good for the entire league. Like they're kind of bought by the league instead against the cap. So I wonder if we're getting to a place where we have like quarterback exemptions or three exemption spots or something.
If anything, I think you'll get to where the quarterbacks are under a different cap.
Yeah, I guess I can see that, because what would be the other positions that you would create the exemption for? I guess and
if you want to see parity, the salary cap is 100% what keeps parity in the NFL, and that's why you can go from worst to first. And I don't know this for a fact, but I'm guessing you don't see a team who gets relegated jump back up and win the fucking Premier League the next year or win the Championship League. And if it does, it's an anomaly, right?
Yeah, it's happened once. Leicester City, and they were 5,000 to 1. And bookies now are never allowed to put those odds on again because loads of Leicester City fans just put it on at the start of the season for a laugh and then won a lot of money.
Yeah, see, the salary cap is I think what really keeps it competitive.
Yeah. I mean, football, I actually also think that the salary cap creates an added value of entertainment. Like it creates an added layer to the NFL. Like you can't just go out and buy all the best players. You have to dance with the cap, and it provides talking points for people like me and you who just want to talk about the NFL all year. It actually really allows fans to get into it. And you can see it happening with football, soccer, European football at the moment as well, where the European body, UEFA, they have introduced something like a sustainability funding cap, PSR, where you can only have outgoings to the certain amount of incomings and stuff that your team has. But that goes down to how many staff you can pay and all of that kind of stuff as well. It's so football clubs just aren't going into billions and billions of debt, and then the owners, the billionaire owners, are just fucking off back to wherever they came from and leave this poor community's club in total ruin. And now you've got Manchester United fans being oh well, we're gonna have to sell these players to buy these players and stuff, and you can see them starting to work through it. And I think it is an interesting entertainment layer as well, the cap. So I hope they don't get rid of it, but there needs to be something done now because quarterbacks are just making ridiculous amounts of money. And it also means if you have the cap and quarterbacks are making ridiculous amounts of money, then everybody else on the cap has to make less.
Yeah, but I also think what we're seeing in the NFL that's going to curb that is we're seeing more teams walk away from mid-level quarterbacks instead of paying them 50 to 60 million. You know what I mean? You're seeing teams more apt to say, no, I'm not giving Sam Darnold 60 million. I'm not giving Baker Mayfield 60 million. They're really good, but they're not. There's only a handful of guys in the league who are worth that top money. And I think we're starting to see that more, which will push that. I think it'll even out more where you'll just see a few guys who deserve it making that astronomical amount of money.
Yeah, because it looked like we were getting to that point of just next guy up when it was Dak, Wentz, Goff.
We were guys, for a minute.
Yeah, it was what did it go when Goff, Wentz, Dak, and it was
Jordan Love.
Yeah. I thought John Love making that contract was insane. To be honest, like Jalen Hurts, when he made that contract, could have come into that conversation, but he's obviously like shown that he is worth the money now and everything like that as well. But yeah, it was Dak. I would say is kind of he's one of those guys that is on the cusp of like whether he's worth it or not. It's more just the time where Jerry decided to pay him. But yeah, obviously, like so much news has come out at the moment, and actually a lot of it has got to do with the NFC West. So before we go into the NFC West, I thought, Jay, we could just talk about the Seattle Seahawks first and include them just as the news item because they've just gone crazy. Thoughts on Aaron Jones sticking with the Minnesota Vikings? Happy with that?
Yeah, no, I love it. He had his best season of his career last year. I don't know if a lot of people understand that. And yes, he does get banged up, but that's why the Vikings, I know everybody's saying they're going to do something in the draft. I think they end up keeping Cam Akers and then signing a guy, which the rumors are Rico Dowell. That's perfect for me for a third option. But if you keep Aaron Jones and you got a good second guy, I'm cool with whatever you do at the third. Even if you keep Ty Chandler, who is below average, like whatever, he's the third guy. I'm really happy because that offense did great things with Aaron Jones. And as long as they have a solid second, because he does get injured being a smaller frame, but I'm good with it. And then come to find out, he'll never say this, but he did have a little spurt of fumbling problem during the year for a section. He had a broken rib and was wearing a rib pad. And every time he pinned it to his chest is when he would fumble it. It was a bad. So he actually took that off the rest of the year when he didn't fumble and played with a broken rib just so he wouldn't fumble without the padding. So that was an injury thing. I don't think Vikings fans have to worry about him all of a sudden having like fumbleitis or anything like that. I'm excited.
Yeah. NFL players are fucking crazy, man. That's another bonus of like the season being short, but the year, like it being all year round, but the season is short. It means you get your best players kind of every game because they just go, oh, I only have to fight for this long. Like you don't get what happens in the NBA where it's like, oh, well, what's the point of me playing through this injury? Like
Right.
AD at Dallas, for example, probably could, like if it was the NFL and you only had 20 games. By the way, I was right about the Luka Doncic trade being like one of the worst things in NFL, NBA history in terms of trade. It was horrendous. But Anthony Davis, like has kind of, now Kyrie Irving's out for the season. He's kind of gone, well, there's no point of me coming and playing.
Let's not get into the argument of it's the worst trade because I think the Kyrie is what makes it bad, but we don't have to because they were true contenders for a hot minute and then, yeah.
But yeah, so Aaron Jones comes back and he plays ridiculously hard. And I think it's really important that Minnesota keep that running back room because I really do hope that they play JJ McCarthy next year. I know there's some noise coming out about certain quarterback trades. I don't think we really have to talk about them because I don't think that'll happen. But Aaron Rodgers to Minnesota, I think would be crazy. A crazy thing to do. But JJ McCarthy, they have to.
I'm going to touch that quick. I wouldn't absolutely hate it if I actually thought Aaron Rodgers was going to come in and learn Kevin O'Connell's system. But I don't think that's what Aaron Rodgers is going to do wherever he goes. So, no, I don't want him. But I think Aaron Rodgers could be amazing in Kevin O'Connell's system. But I do rather see J.J. McCarthy play. But that's my big argument is I think wherever Aaron Rodgers goes, they have to play Aaron Rodgers' system.
Yeah, and you have to hire Randall Cobb and Alan Lazard as well to come play wide receiver for you.
Yeah, I think those days of Rodgers having that kind of pull are done.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, but I think like Aaron Jones re-signing is a big deal for Minnesota, and I think it's really important for JJ McCarthy's development. Jay, let's move on to the NFC West, and let's start with the Seattle Seahawks. Seattle Seahawks been making huge news over the past couple of days. They've basically decided to blow it up and start again. They've gone into full rebuild mode. Jay, is this the right time for them to rebuild? They've now traded DK Metcalf. They've got rid of Geno Smith to the Raiders, and they've released Tyler Lockett as well.
Yes, and as they always do, they will pick up every player that the Vikings don't re-sign because they're the Vikings of the West. I don't know how that happens, but they do. And now they're already them, and it looks like it's them or the Steelers is what it looks like for Sam Darnold. So Sam Darnold now makes more sense with the Steelers, though, because DK Metcalf, Pickens, like legit defense. I actually like him better now with the Steelers. And if before the DK Metcalf trade, I would have said I liked him better with the Seahawks. I don't know what they're going to do at quarterback. And that's the thing. Like, I get you moved on from Geno. I'm not the biggest Geno fan. What is your plan at quarterback? They obviously have one. We just don't know what it is. But yeah, if you're going to blow it up now. You proved your coach can coach. So now you just can give him some leeway to rebuild it. You had 1 year to prove your new coach can coach. And now you can rebuild it and get some grace from your fans.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting rebuild moment for the Seahawks. And I'm kind of on board with it, to be honest, as well. But they went 10-7, but it wasn't a good 10-7, and they looked limited the entire time. Now, the question you have to ask yourself is, was Geno Smith limited because of the interior offensive line, which they still need to fix? No matter who comes and plays quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks, they need to sign 2 guards and a center. They need that. So was it Geno Smith's fault that you weren't getting over the edge? Actually, up until the red zone, Geno Smith was one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. He just didn't play particularly well in the red zone, which is obviously where you score your points. So I don't hate moving off Geno. I think you're limited with Geno. I think getting a 3rd round pick for Geno Smith is actually a really good compensation level for them as well. So big fan of moving off Geno. Jay, what do you make of Geno Smith going to the Raiders? What do you think it does for the Raiders? We'll talk more about it in our AFC West show when we get there sometime next week.
It puts him back with Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll understands him. It gives them a quarterback. I still think they need to address that because he's younger, or because they need to get younger. And Geno's not going to. I don't think Geno's going to win you a Super Bowl. I know Max Crosby was excited about it, but that's because look what Max Crosby's been playing with. But I will say it does make sense at this point if you're the Seahawks to move off your receivers. And this is a reason why, and I got this list. So we can knock Adams and Lockett off it right away. But Chris Godwin, Stephon Diggs, Amari Cooper, Hopkins, Keenan Allen, Hollywood Brown just re-signed, Brandon Cooks, Darius Slay, Mike Williams, KJ Osborne, Demarcus Robinson, Mac Hollins, Tyler Boyd, Elijah Moore, Tutu Atwell,
Tutu Atwell's just re-signed as well.
Huh?
Tutu Atwell's just re-signed as well.
Okay, Tutu. Then you still have Juju Smith, Tim Patrick, and Josh Palmer on the free agent market. Like, you can go out and then you can go in the draft too. So you can get guys to go with Jackson Smith and Jigba in Seattle without having to worry. I don't think Tyler Lockett was a big deal when they cut him because I think he's been falling off. And I am still not I don't think DK Metcalf is a top 5 receiver in the NFL, but he is really good. And I think if you pair him in Pittsburgh, then with George Pickens, you'll be good.
Yeah.
I didn't think there was any way in hell they were getting a first for him, and they ended up for the second. I wouldn't have gave up a second, but I'm not mad at them for giving up a second.
Yeah, I actually agree with you in terms of it actually does make sense to just if you're going to blow it up, then blow it up. Like if you're going to say we're too top heavy, let's go get younger, let's go get cheaper and build around. They have some really good young defensive pieces. I was looking through what people were saying their team needs are, and they had loads of team needs on the defense. And I was like, do you know what? I don't think the Seahawks have that many needs on the defense. Like maybe an edge rusher, like obviously everybody needs edge rushers. Like that would be helpful. But really, their need is an interior offensive line. But the best reason for them to blow it up a wide receiver is Jackson Smith and Jigba. Like they have. It's like, oh my God, they're getting rid of DK Metcalf. They're getting rid of Tyler Lockett. And I think DK Metcalf is I do think he's a top wide receiver, just because he does things that other people can't do in terms of his body type and all of that kind of stuff. But Jackson Smith and Jigba had a better season than he did. He was their number one wide receiver last year. So they have a number one. They can go pick up an Amari Cooper, who I think will be a great pickup for what Seattle does. And then there's plenty in the draft as well. Who have I got them taken actually? Like they could get away with if they take Jaden Higgins, wide receiver out of Iowa State, in the late second, early third round of the draft. That's a 6'4" wide receiver who fills a similar role to DK Metcalf. So you've immediately got younger with Jackson Smith and Jigba and the draft, and then you put in Amari Cooper as well. So I would say you've got younger and better and cheaper by doing it that way. So although I do think that the Seahawks have indicated they're doing a rebuild by doing this, I don't think they're going to be significantly worse.
Well, I got them taking Tyler Booker off guard out of Alabama, but I think other guys are still. I could see Noah Fant not being there next year because of money wise. I could see George Fant being cut because of money too, their offensive tackle. But I think they take care of the inside offensive line in the first round of the draft.
Yeah, definitely. I think that that's what they have to target, right? So no matter what they do with this rebuild, no matter who they put a quarterback, you can't do anything with the interior offensive line the way it was, especially towards the end of the season. They actually have a load of cap space now. So they are currently working with $62 million in cap space. They have 9 picks in the draft as well. So they have a load of free agency capital. They have a load of draft capital as well. They can really, this rebuild, I don't think, is one of those where it's like, oh, we're blowing it up, we're starting again, we're going to be dramatically worse. I think if they get Sam Darnold, that's cause to say maybe that's an upgrade already on Geno Smith. Like Sam Darnold had a really good season last year. The answer is, does Sam Darnold get you over the top, and is that why you got rid of Geno Smith as well? So, but yeah, so they've got loads of draft capital to play with. They've got draft capital to play with, and they've got free agency money to play with. Personally, I've got them taking Calvin Banks Jr. in the first round of the draft as well. I've got him. He's obviously the tackle from Texas, Calvin Banks Jr. I think he projects way more to guard. I think he actually projects way more to guard in the NFL just because of his wingspan and arm size and those kind of things. So I think if you take Calvin Banks Jr. and move him to guard, that's what I would be looking at. But Tyler Booker, guard from Alabama. They've got loads of wide receivers, and a couple of sneaky free agents here. Drew Dalman, Falcons center, best center on the free agency market. And if I was them, I'd be calling DeMarcus Lawrence, Dallas Cowboys defensive end, just to get a little bit of help on the edge and some good experience run stopping help as well, because you've got loads of cap room to play with there.
Yeah, they definitely need a defensive tackle, but like you could say that about half the teams in the league.
Yeah, that's a problem with defensive tackle league wide, which is actually getting addressed in this draft.
Andrew Whitworth disagrees with you about your boy from Texas and thinks he's going to be a top flight tackle, even though of his arm span, because he said if you watch him, he doesn't get bullied by getting pushed back, and he held his own against the best in the SEC. But that was just him saying it.
I'm more than happy to bend the knee to Andrew Whitworth here, to be honest.
I was just telling you, I just literally heard him say it yesterday, so that's why I was bringing it up.
Yeah, with the Seahawks, their offensive line is really strange because they have 2 really good young tackles. Like the tackle position is very strong, really young, not costing them anything on the cap. And then the offensive line is just basically may as well not be there. So I think there is a cause for them to stay because a lot of these guys, the tackles are getting
Well,
compared to guards more in this class. There's not a load of tackle. There's a load of tackles that are registered as tackle because that increases your draft stock, but actually then make better interior offensive linemen in the NFL. So that's the kind of players they
and
should be looking at.
they can give the Vikings a call after the Vikings upgrade their center in free agency, and then we'll trade you Bradbury and we'll call it good.
Yeah, exactly. They've got loads of. The Seahawks have now become one of the most exciting teams to work with when we're doing these kind of exercises. But yeah, a lot of fun. Jay, the San Francisco 49ers, their offseason, they've been getting rid of a lot of players as well. Jay, do you think the San Francisco 49ers Super Bowl window is closed?
No, and let's not forget they have 12 draft picks. 12. Like
Yeah,
they're gonna come out with some depth. And I literally can see Joey Bosa ending up there. I literally can see Joey Bosa on one end, Nick Bosa on the other, Hargrave in the middle. And the only thing I'm looking is there is a couple guys. I don't know what they do if they don't resign. And I know that people keep saying they're going to release Hargrave because of his contract. I don't think they are. I think he makes up too much sense in the middle of that defense. I think that they have, like, if you let Greenlaw go, like Minnesota, just keep calling Greenlaw's fucking agent, because we watched how big of a difference he made just in the half a game that he was in and where it went after he went back out. Travaris Ward is another guy. I already have questions about your secondary. So maybe you should try to keep one of the guys that actually seems like he can play on there. Devin Campbell's a free agent, so they'd be really thin at linebacker if they lost both of them. But, I mean, I don't think the 49ers are going to be that bad if the injury bug doesn't take over again. But they're also a team where you have to get another running back. I mean, Mason's a restricted free agent, so he'll be back. But Christian McCaffrey had, like, injury issues. You have a great left tackle, but the problem is he's actually older than Dumbledore, so that's an issue. Like, I think Dumbledore in the book was 137, so I'm not sure. Like, like, you got an aging tackle who's great, but at what point does he stop being great? Because
he's got 2 years.
Like, does he though? Like, I hope he does, but does he? Like, the motherfucker's old, and after his holdout last year, he had some issues getting in shape and getting ready again. Maybe that won't happen because he'll be at training camp, but he looked rough at the beginning of the year. I think their biggest issue is what do you do with Brock Purdy? But you can actually say this year, I'm not going to do shit with Brock Purdy, and you can worry about being lame duck with him next year. I don't hear their name in it, but again, I thought they should be going after fucking Sam Darnold, but maybe that's not a thought of theirs. I thought they might even think, hey, Kirk Cousins for a year or two, but they might not. They might just actually pay Purdy. I don't think that's a good idea, especially with a team who's already trying to figure out how to work the cap and their benefit because they paid a lot of guys and they're getting older. But I think they got, like you said, 2 years with the tackle. I think they got 2 years right now of a window still to get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think with the thing that happened with the thing that happened with the 49ers last year is injuries, which is what we said at the start of the season is exactly what would happen with the 49ers, because it's what happens with them every year. So you need to find a way to stop that from happening to you. And that must be all of our star players who we play all of our money to are now old and or injury prone, right? So Trent Williams spends a lot of time not playing football as well. Like he is old, but he spends a lot of time not playing football. Christian McCaffrey, the top 2 running back in the league. Well, he can't be the top 2 running back in the league if he's not playing all the time. Like, and he's a big cap hit. Like, there's this case. Brandon Ayuk has spent a lot of time injured in his young career. Like, George Kittle doesn't play every time. He's
They're
on the
willing
trade
to
block
trade
now.
him. Yeah, they're willing to
I
trade him
would.
right now. But then my question to you is now we talked about all these receivers. Yeah, you got why is the kid who starts with a P who got
Ricky
shot?
Pearsall.
Yeah, he got
Ricky
shot.
Pearsall and
Yeah, and
yeah,
who else they got?
Javonte Williams is that?
Yeah. So like, is this what we're going into? Like, are you not going to have Brandon Ayuk? Like, because that would be weird after you just paid him. And why would you trade both of them? I actually thought getting rid of Ayuk and re-signing Debo would have been a better solution, but that's neither here. I can't believe they only got a fifth for Debo too. We don't have to get into that, but I feel like you have to keep Brandon Ayuk. But there's rumors that they're willing to trade him, and that makes me nervous because I don't know if you, I'm pretty sure you agree, but I don't think Brock Purdy's a guy who can throw the team on his back and carry them.
Yeah. I saw that I've seen stories that they've offered Brock Purdy 45 mil a year, 45 million a year, and that's too big a number for me for Brock Purdy. Like I get it. I get wanting to sign him early because you see what happens if you don't. Like sign him early, a la Dallas Cowboys, Minnesota Vikings when Kirk Cousins was there. It does become difficult to build your roster. But look, Brock Purdy has been the best quarterback under Kyle Shanahan in the 49ers. Like that is 100% true. But he hasn't got further than Jimmy Garoppolo did. He's got to exactly the same spot as Jimmy Garoppolo did. So is he worth 30, like is he worth 25 million more than Jimmy Garoppolo? Like there? No, because they got to the same point. Because Kyle Shanahan does a great job with those players. So look, Sam Darnold might also go for 40, 45 million, depending on how crazy this market
Okay, but you get Sam Darnold for 40, I think is way better than Brock Purdy at 40.
I don't know. I don't know whether I necessarily agree with that, just because you know that Brock Purdy works in that system. Although Sam Darnold came from that system before going to
And they're
KC.
all a shoot. McVay and all of them are a shoot up of
Yeah.
the Mike Shanahan system.
Yeah, I just wonder with the 49ers if like Kyle Shanahan has wanted a running quarterback in his roster since RG3 went down, and it's just Jalen Milroe again. Like I just think Jalen Milroe looks excellent there. So if you can get Kirk Cousins on the vet minimum to kind of like run the show, and then you have Jalen Milroe sitting behind him to learn. Because the problem that happened with Trey Lance isn't that good, but also he had to play instantly as well. So if you have the time, then that's what I would do over Brock Purdy.
When healthy, do you think Kirk Cousins is better than Brock Purdy?
Yes, but I mean, you lose. Brock Purdy is sneakily mobile, isn't important.
Right, but I still think for the Shanahan's game, timing, rhythm, I think Cousins is a better fit too. Like I hate shitting on Brock Purdy because he's played well. But again, this is what we went back and talked about. You're not one of those guys.
Yeah.
And if you're not one of those guys, I can't give you $50 to $60 million.
Yeah, I'm also not sure where Brock Purdy gets that money in free agency though. Like, so would you be tempted to just kick the tires? What I would do if I was the 49ers, I would get Jalen Milroe with one of my 12 draft picks in the second round, because I may as well, right? I would get Jalen Milroe in the second round, and then I would kick the tires on Brock Purdy until next year, see if he's any good. Because he is clearly good. He is good enough to get them to the Super Bowl. He can do that. So I would kick the tires on it, and then I would let Brock Purdy test free agency after that, to be honest, and see who pays him 45, 50 mil. Because if he comes back to the table, if Brock Purdy is that 40 million, okay, like fine. I can pay 40 for Brock Purdy, but I don't want to be getting into like 45, 50.
I don't know if you can win a Super Bowl with Brock Purdy.
Yeah. I don't know with Brock Purdy. And with the 49ers roster as well, they are making changes now. So they don't have that Deebo Samuels kind of player, that gadget player. He isn't there. Brandon Ayuk, as you say, is on the trade block. George Kittle is going into the last year of his current contract as well. So I think this is the year that the 49ers have to go for it, or they have to rebuild. And you can't say you're rebuilding if you then pay Brock Purdy 45 mil. in this year. Like so they have to decide what they're doing here. And if they're going for it, they may as well just leave him for the final year of his contract anyway. So I think it would be stupid to pay Brock Purdy at this point, going forward. And I think they should rebuild. And Jay, they're in a great position to rebuild because, as you say, they have the 12 picks. And their biggest problem as a team is they're too old. So they're at a perfect point to kind of go and make those picks up. If I'm the 49ers, I'm picking secondary and I'm picking interior offensive line. That's kind of where I'm going. And to be honest, I would go into that running back class as well. Like, this is a really great and really deep running back class. I would go there. And I'm liking Jalen Milroe more and more for the 49ers too.
And a developmental tackle, because you're going to have to replace.
Yeah, whoever you decide is your developmental left tackle. I wonder if there's some guys on free agency who are kind of like don't look like they might be with their team. Cam
Robinson is going to be out there, and he did great for the Vikings after they snatched him up for Darisaw. Like, Cam Robinson is a guy that I think could pick the Vikings up a third-round compensatory pick next year for walking. I think they could end up with a few of them. I think they could end up with Sam Darnold and him in the third round. And if they don't re-sign Tillery, I think he could be a third or fourth round compensatory pick too. So if you're going to trade a guy, sometimes, like, let's say you don't think you can get, let's say you're out there and you can't get more. And you just take the compensatory pick.
Sorry, say that again. You're back.
I was like, say you can't get more than a third for Brock Purdy if you wanted to trade him, because you're gonna have to, somebody's gonna have to pay him too. You do just let him run out the contract and walk, because you'll get like a third round compensatory pick, because he will be a starter.
Yeah, and I would just kick it. See what you can do. See what you can do this year. I wouldn't trade Brandon Ayuk this year either. Like, I wouldn't trade him this year, because just see what you can do without the injuries. And if you get like younger with good backup players in these 11, like the 49ers could say, look, we're not starting any of our rookies this year. We're just building up that backup work. So if they go, we're not falling off. Then that would be a really great place for them.
Would you be shocked if Joey Bosa ended up there? Because I wouldn't.
For the amount of money that he's going to command and the amount of cap space that they have, maybe.
Do you think he's going to command that type of money, though, with his age, and he hasn't got a ring, and he's got a chance to chase the ring with his brother, and he's already got 2 really big contracts before? I don't know.
Yeah, I would maybe go with this. I would maybe go with a 1-year deal for Joey Bosa and just say, okay, 1-year deal. Let's see what we can get, and let's see what we do this year.
Adams didn't break the bank. I mean, he came in at an average of 23 a year. We talked about that. Like, maybe some of these guys want Super Bowls more than they want 35 million. Yeah,
definitely. And Joey Bosa and Nick Bosa on the same defensive line would be, 1, fun to see, and 2, pretty lethal if they're both healthy as well, which would be good fun to watch, unless you don't like the 49ers particularly. Jay, I do think they're releasing Hargrave. And like, there's so much about it, and God, I hope he becomes a Dallas Cowboy if he does.
See, I was just gonna say, he can come to Minnesota. We could use a big tackle in the middle. Like, but I'm with you. Like, I think you're crazy if you restructure him. Like, figure it out. But if they have to release him, there is definitely no shortage of teams who will want that man.
He would just solve so many defensive issues of the Dallas Cowboys, and then that frees up Ashton Genty in the draft. Like, you don't have to feel guilty about taking Genty at 12 then, because if you're leaving a good D tackle on the board at 12, you don't have to feel guilty if you've taken Hargrave as well. Jay, moving on to the Rams, just alluded to it. They have just signed Devontae Adams about 5 minutes before we went on. So we don't have all the news on that. But Jay, how much of an upgrade is Devontae Adams for the Los Angeles Rams?
Nope, I do. And let me grab this. I have it on my phone. You can ask me what you just said again, and then I'll get you the details while we're talking.
Yeah,
I didn't hear you because I was yelling. I do.
Yeah, so I was just saying, Devontae Adams, Feels like a really big upgrade for the Los Angeles Rams with the way that Cooper Kupp looked at the end of the season. Like they've just re-signed Tutu Atwell to a really chilled, team-friendly deal as well for Tutu Atwell. So they now have Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua, Tutu Atwell, Tyler Higbee at tight end, with Matthew Stafford at quarterback and Kyron Williams running back as well. That is a really, really strong offensive weapon set for Sean McVay to work with. And I think he's a huge upgrade for them because, look, I was saying Devontae Adams is a bit old. Is he still a top wide receiver in the league? Like he still played well. He still played really well with Aaron Rodgers in New York. He's by no means like DeAndre Hopkins, where it was this is DeAndre Hopkins' last hurrah. Like Devontae Adams still has time in the league and is still an excellent route runner. The problem with him at the Jets was he was taking so many targets away from Garrett Wilson that was then leading to the Jets' actual future and a wide receiver requesting to be traded. So they did need to get rid of Devontae Adams as well.
Devontae Adams with Matthew Stafford and the rest of the team, like because there's a lot of skill, will be in the top echelon of receivers again. But it is a 2-year deal, $46 million, so that's $23 million a year, with $26 million guaranteed.
So only around 1 year of it guaranteed as well isn't bad.
Yeah, and that's $23 million a year on an average. You and I talked like any team can figure that out. He's not going for the 30 to 35. So like to me, it just shows that Devontae wants to win. And again, some reason people are shitting on the Rams, like they're not that good. Like I think they're thinking of the beginning of the season and they're forgetting the end of the season because they were literally one play away from moving on in the playoffs and beating was it the Eagles?
The Eagles, one play away from beating the Super Bowl champs.
Yeah, like can we stop? And I'm not saying that the Vikings were the best team in the NFL, but they were really good, and they only lost to 2 teams. And the Rams they lost to twice, and the Detroit they lost to twice, right? So like the Rams beat really good teams this year too. Like I don't know why people think they can't play all of a sudden.
Yeah, I think like we both picked the Rams as one of our favorites going into the season as well. I think when you just list off that wide receiver room now, Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams, and Tutu Atwell, like people just completely disrespect Puka Nacua because he wasn't that high echelon of pick. Like just watch Puka Nacua play football, especially with a quarterback like Matthew Stafford, because Stafford is still a gunslinger. Like he is still just launching that ball into dangerous places, and Puka Nacua comes down with it all of the time. Like Puka Nacua just has this ability to catch in strange positions, and I love the Rams' offensive weaponry. And then, not to mention, on the defensive side of the ball, they have the defensive rookie of the year in Jared Verse. They also have Fisk as well on that line. They also have a decent secondary of young players. Like they've drafted really well, but they draft with 2nd and 3rd round picks, and they just draft better than everybody else currently. I have no idea why the Rams are so disrespected.
Yeah, I don't either. And literally, when I was going through them, and I'm like, what are their needs? Like, what could I really put down as their needs? And guess what? They just took care of the receiver problem, right?
So they had a problem at second wide receiver. They made sure
they were spoon because again have to fix, but
sorry, you just cut out a little bit there. Sorry, everyone, just a couple of technical issues. But yeah, they took care of their need at second wide receiver. But like I would say that their biggest need now is consistency on the offensive line. So their offensive line still has this weird inconsistency issue where from 2 years ago, after they won the Super Bowl, it was one of the worst offensive lines I think I've ever seen in my entire life. And every now and again, they they do that again, and you can't do that with Matthew Stafford back there either. So a bit of consistency on the offensive line, but that doesn't mean it has to be stars on the offensive line the entire time either.
And I don't think they even need to add anybody to the offensive line. They re-signed Jackson, and I think inside linebacker is something they need in corner. And I said receiver, but they fixed that. So, like, literally, if you look at their team, they have two glaring needs, I guess you would say. They need an inside linebacker, and they need corners. But they get to the passer pretty quick, which helps hide their corner deficiency. And you're only what's the GM? Is it Les Snead? Is that the GM? Yeah. He's gonna figure out how to fix the other two positions with the I think they got 100 6th-round draft picks or something, and then they have a first 2/3 and 100 6th-round draft picks. I think that's what it comes down to. But
they have 4 6th-round draft picks, so they have 8 draft picks overall, 4 of them in the 6th round.
I think they'll be fine. I think they're contenders. I think Devontae Adams upgrades that receiver room. I think Matthew Stafford's probably dancing a little dance right now with the fact that he's got Devontae Adams. And he wanted to stay because they just gave him he took less money. But I will say I have been seeing shit all week that Todd Gurley left that team wanting nothing to do with the Rams ever again. Cooper Kupp is pissed off at the way they spoke to him on the exit meeting. And the way Sean McVay laid it out to him when he tried to talk to him, there was somebody else that had just left not too long ago that wants nothing to do with the Rams ever again. And now we had this weird thing with Stafford. I think there's a weird thing going on where they're only okay because they're playing well. I think there's something in that organization that's rubbing players the wrong way.
Yeah, I do think the way that they approach, I think the way that they approach roster building is very successful, but it's not very player friendly. There isn't a big player friendly element to their roster build because their ideology is F them picks if we go get the guys, but really we just want to be really young and develop at every position. They're young in terms of depth, and then they develop those players because they have an amazing coaching staff, right? And I think their metrics for drafting is a bit different as well. I remember them speaking about it with Puka. Their metrics had Puka as one of the best wide receivers in the draft, and they ended up getting him in the 5th round, and loads of those things. So I think Cooper Kupp isn't good enough to be at the Los Angeles Rams now this year, on the money he's on either. That's also important to mention. And I just don't think they particularly handle that well in terms of
right.
Letting
But Cooper
guys go.
Kupp asked them, if you read his interview, he asked them if there was something they could do on a restructure, taking less money, and they told him no.
Yeah, I just don't think they think I don't think Cooper Kupp makes a huge difference for a lot of teams in the NFL next year. Personally,
I think how you treat your star players matters to free agents, though.
Yeah, definitely. I think, but the other part of that though, Jay, is they're in LA. So that they do have that free agency pool.
I was thinking about this. What free agents do you see go there? It's trades.
Yeah, I mean, yes, because of obviously because of the state income tax and all of that kind of thing in California is incredibly high. So that's not very helpful either.
Yeah, but California is one of the best places to live weather-wise.
One of the
there. I think players hear about how they treat other players and aren't running to go play there.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, all reports are that Stafford got backed up the Brinks truck by the Giants and still decided to pick the Rams over the.
Yeah, but that's the Giants. Who the fuck wants to play for the Giants?
Yeah, that's okay. That's very
so they ranked 21st in NFLPA treated a family D and were ranked 30th. Ownership is a C and ranked 24th and an A on.
Yeah, there is something rotten in the organization. It is their approach to roster building rather than it's their approach to roster building. I think rather than there's something like really bad. So it's not like the Cardinals where you have to like buy your own fucking drinks in the canteen and all of that kind of stuff. Like when you go, it's not that kind of rotten. It's their approach to roster building, and I agree with you. Free agents hear about that, and that's not a good look for them.
My only argument is let Les Snead be the asshole. Make Sean McVay be the loving. I'm sorry. The management made this decision. We love you. If there's anything we can do to help you land in a better spot, and let Les Snead be the asshole. Sean McVay should not be the one like arguing with players about them getting cut. Like, and I don't understand. There needs to be like this separation of he's the bad guy. I love you.
Yeah. I wonder. So Sean McVay does feel like nice, cuddly guy, right? Like up front, but I bet he's fucking not. He seems ruthless.
They say like, that everybody thinks Kevin O'Connell is like the lovingest guy, and his players are like, no, Coach is great, and Coach loves us. Coach will tear our ass apart. And like, so I think there's something to that. You can be a nice guy and still be a real like stern head coach.
Yeah. I think the Rams are in a really great position going into this draft. I don't think they have huge amounts of holes. If it's anywhere, then it's on the O-line a bit, and then it's on the secondary help. I think they could really do with, and then drafting in a perfect spot in the first round to get JD Barron from Texas, cornerback, or Malake Starks. Yep. As well. They could also get really lucky and get a what's his name? Get Josh Simmons, offensive tackle as well. Another guy kind of projected to go to guard, but I feel like he'll be drafted a bit before that.
I don't think they're going to fix. I don't think they need to fix anything on their offensive line, and I have them taking Tyler Warren, tight end, Penn State, give another weapon to Matthew Stafford. Go along with that. We see what these tight ends can do, these athletic receiver type tight ends that can, and he's a willing blocker. And that's all you need from your tight end, especially your receiving tight end, to be a willing blocker, right? Like TJ Hawkinson is a willing blocker. Ferguson is a willing blocker, but they're receiving tight ends. Yeah, like that's who I got them taking. I don't, maybe I'm just crazy, but I look at their offensive line and I don't see any issues.
Yeah, I don't think I see a player-to-player issue. I think there is a consistency. Like there has to be something wrong there if it can just completely change from week to week on something that is as they did deal with a lot of injuries at interior offensive line actually throughout the year. So I think it is an injury cover that I'm kind of going for as well, because it would, when you have Matthew Stafford back there, you need to have a really solid offensive line because Matthew Stafford can't do. So I really like where the Rams are. I also would kind of love to be the GM of the next team because I just think there's something exciting about the Arizona Cardinals to me all the time. Like every time there's something really exciting about the Arizona Cardinals. And I think they're like one of my sweetheart teams. Like Kyler Murray is obviously a franchise quarterback, but is he really? And he's just such a like unknown entity and all of those kind of things. They have the third most cap space in the NFL. It's $77 million in cap space. Here they only have 5
71 as of today.
Oh, 71 as of today, is it? Oh, maybe I've got the cap before draft picks and stuff as well. But Jay, what would you say was the Cardinals' biggest weakness last season?
Like the Cardinals were weird. So like it felt like week to week there would upgrade your pass rush and upgrade your offensive line. I guess that's always every team's issue. Like but I really think they need to upgrade their offensive line, and I really think they need to upgrade their pass rush. But like I like their secondary. I like their receiving core. I think their running back room is okay. But like I like a lot of the things they have going on. The problem is when you don't have a great pass rush, it makes it really rough on your secondary. And then your secondary can start to look like ass when they're really not ass because you're asking them to cover. And so I went back and I was looking, and the Cardinals secondary literally had to hold up for an average of 4.8 seconds per play, which is astronomically high when you figure running plays last like 3 seconds, right? Like, so they had to hold up for an astronomical amount of time in that. And so it's like, you need pass rush. Just go get some pass rush.
Yeah, nothing sums up the Cardinals better than I forget his actual name, but the Barbarian defensive end, right? Nothing sums them up better than he gets double digit sacks. Every single year he gets double digit sacks, but he gets them in about 3 games. So like if he has the beating of a tackle, he that's the end of it. Like, he is making it to the quarterback and he is sacking the guy. But then he'll just disappear for the next 3-4 weeks. And they get like that. It's like Isaiah Simmons like never panned out, but Xavier Collins like is kind of there, but he's not there. Like, the Cardinals get these guys that are just freaks, and they just forget that it might be good to get a few consistent players to like play around the freaks. They just make an entire roster of just crazy people who don't actually fit any singular position. When you watch the Arizona Cardinals, they have a huge size deficiency to every other team that they play in the NFL. Like, you watch them and they're smaller. Like, they're smaller than every team that they play. So they need to get bigger. They need to beef up quite a bit, I would say. But for the Cardinals, to me, there's no glaring weaknesses. The one thing they have to do, Jay, is get speed on offense, speed at wide receiver. They need to find those guys out there as well. So what's your drafting strategy for the Arizona Cardinals? Who are you taking? Or with that $77 million, who have you got them going for in free agency as well?
Well, in the draft, they only got 5 picks. So if they want to trade back and they can, I get that. But at 16, I think they're in a perfect spot where they can get a guy because they need pressure and they need a linebacker. They could get Jalen Walker, edge linebacker, Georgia, because he can play the linebacker or he can play the rush. And he's fast enough to move side to side. He can on the field. He can play both spots. I think he'd fit perfectly in their defensive scheme. And this is a guy who had last season had a total of 57 tackles and he had 6.5 sacks. So, I mean, he can get to the quarterback and he can make tackles and move across the field. So I think that's a good signing for them. But if I'm them and Hargrave comes available, that's another guy I'm going after. If they really do cut him, eat up the monster in the middle. You don't have a ton of draft capital, but call the Bengals and see what they want for Hendrickson. Like, you can get some pass rush there. What's his name? Simmons from Tennessee. You could probably get him if you call with the right price. So there's guys out there. I think they just defensive tackle. And I would say Byron Murphy, but he hated them when he left. So I don't think there's any chance in hell he ever goes back there.
Yeah, I was thinking Byron Murphy, but obviously then I remembered that he came from Arizona as well.
And had nothing good to say about them. Even made shots about how their food was trash and he gets fed great food for free in Minnesota. Like, he literally put that out there. So, he got some hard feelings.
Yeah, I think the Cardinals have just got themselves in a really good position this year to actually make a run for it. To actually make a decent run for it, because Marvin Harrison Jr. had a good year, like, realistically. Kyler Murray is good. Trey McBride might be one of the most underrated weapons at the tight end position as well. So I really like what they've got. They just need to get bigger. Like, it's really easy to be much more consistent if you've just got some huge guys on your team, and they just don't have that. So, John Hargrave, see how much it takes to get like Sexy Dexy out of New York as well there. But I've got them drafting Kenneth Grant from Michigan, defensive line. I think that would be a really good pick for them. Some free agency picks for them out there. I think DeMarcus Lawrence would be a great addition to that type of team. like able to pass rush, but really a great run blocker with loads of experience and shouldn't be crazy expensive. Either the Dallas don't seem to be getting a deal done with him at the moment either. Dre Greenlaw is still not been signed by the 49ers yet either. So if they let him go, then that would be good.
I still want him to end up in Minnesota. Fuck, but he would be awesome on that Cardinals team. He would just be a fuck. Like literally, we've talked about how good he was, but you watch that half a game. They were wrecking shop. He gets injured, then they just get blown the fuck. They get beat the fuck up.
Yeah, exactly. Like they just need to get bigger and more experience on the defensive side of the ball. That's all they need to do. Like is Khalil Mack been signed yet by the Chargers? I haven't seen Josh Sweat, Hassan Reddick. Like they have like these players there that Chase Young, like those guys that would make a big difference. A big difference for them. Going forward. So I like where the Cardinals are at, but I always like where the Cardinals are at. And then they always just draft some freaks and like it never works out for them as well.
Might not be a bad spot for Tyler Lockett.
Yeah, kind of a downfield threat would be really important for them coming out as well, because as you say, you need some speed. I had them taking, who did I have them taking as a wide receiver? Sorry, let me just check that. Yeah, like they could come back with like a Pat Bryant wide receiver. Xavier Restrepo. Xavier Restrepo out of Miami, I think would be a really good fit there for the Cardinals as well.
They're going to be able to do whatever they want in free agency too, whatever they want.
Yeah, as long as the Patriots aren't in for the same people as them, then they'll be able to pay them whatever the hell they want. And Arizona is a good place. Phoenix is like one of the best cities to live in as well, as I hear.
It's the fastest growing city in the U.S. And I'll tell you, my wife and I were just there 2 years ago, and it was fucking amazing.
Yeah, you're such a hot weather guy for someone who lives in Wisconsin, Jay.
Yeah, dude, they have this art district downtown, though, Maddie, where they put on these, like, I don't know if it's every Friday. I don't remember what day. We were there for a whole week. It could be Wednesday for all I remember. But all the artists come out and set up their shops on the street, right? And then they have food vendors. But the cool thing is it's a downtown Phoenix. Every wall through the alleys and on the buildings are art that they let artists paint even on the businesses, and not a single drop of graffiti. That's how much respect they have for this down there. Like not a single drop of graffiti. It's an amazing city. And then you got the, as weird as it sounds, you got the beautiful desert where like you have the only place in the world the cactuses you see on the cartoons and the movies from the West grow is Arizona. The ones that go up, like it was amazing to me actually how much like greenery there actually is in that type of desert.
Yeah, I guess then their only problem for picking up free agency is their terrible like way they treat the players apparently is horrendous. So you would think that it would just be something to really easily turn around. That like right, like let's make the player area nicer, because it just sounds like that kind of thing. Like they have to pay for like cans of Coke or whatever, isn't it? Like they have to pay at the vending machine and those kind of things. No NFL organization should be doing that.
You want to hear this? This is crazy. If you look at their report card, treatment of families, D+, 29th. Food and dining, D, 30th. Nutrition, B, 22nd. Locker room, F-, 32. Training room, D-, 32. Training staff, C, 31st. Weight room, F, 31st. Strength coaches, C+, 31st. Team travel, B, 20th. Head coach, A, he lands 8th. Ownership, D-, 30th.
Maybe that's why they're so small. Their weight room is terrible. But That's all the Arizona Cardinals need to do to beef up is just improve the weight room. Just to add to that, Jay, their turf is also horrendous. Like when the Super Bowl was there before and everybody was slipping over the entire time, like it is known for being a really terrible turf.
Well,
So actually, they're not in a great position because they've got all of this cap space money, but maybe they have all that money because no free agent wants to sign there.
that and this is how dumb they are. So part of the turf problem, they still had bad turf. That they fucking got rid of their guy who took care of the turf for fucking 20 some years right before the Super Bowl and had some young fucks who didn't know what they were doing make it even worse.
Ah, it sounds like Doge. Yeah. But Jay, that's our NFC West kind of roundup of each individual team. Jay, what are your way too early predictions for the NFC West? How is it going to finish at the end of 2025?
Rams, Saints, Cardinals, Seahawks.
All right.
Or Rams, 49ers. I don't know why
49ers.
I Saints. Rams, 49ers, Seahawks, Cardinals.
Yeah, I'm going to go Rams, Cardinals, Seahawks, 49ers. I think the 49ers will still finish at the bottom.
Time out. You with a straight face think the San Francisco 49ers are going to be worse than the Seattle Seahawks.
They were last year.
Okay, they don't have Geno. They don't have DK. They don't have Lockett.
As we spoke about, I think the rebuild might actually just be an upgrade. Like if they get the right quarterback, it is maybe a bit presumptuous.
If I'm Sam Darnold, I'm going to Pittsburgh now.
Oh yeah, like if I'm Sam Darnold, I'm going to Pittsburgh as well. I do think it's interesting though. It would be interesting for the Steelers now to keep hold of Russell Wilson if DK Metcalf's there. Like, because they have that connection. There's the long ball.
Do they even like each other? Because nobody seemed that likes Russell, who was on the Seahawks.
Like the sideline antics though that are going to go off if you have DK Metcalf and George Pickens on the same sideline, like that is horrendous. Like the Steelers have a really weird thing about picking up problem wide receivers. They love a diva wide receiver. Obviously Antonio Brown being the king of that category, but like they
but then you had what was Marcus? What the fuck? Caused all Brown, was that it? There caused all kinds. Like they haven't had like a sure-headed wide receiver since the days of Santonio Holmes and fucking why am I blanking on their Super Bowl fucking Hines Ward? Like that's when they had that. Like that's been Hines Ward and Santonio Holmes were the last time they had sane wide receivers in Pittsburgh.
You can like watch it. When you watch the Steelers, you can see it as well. Like because the Steelers organization is pretty straight edged as well, just like as an organization. So you can see that you can see all the other players are like super straight edge and everything. And then you just see like George Pickens just freaking out whilst on the pitch, like just upset. Like he's just visibly annoyed at everything that's happening around him, which I would be as well if I'm as talented as him and not getting the ball thrown anywhere near me. But and every time I do, I make some ridiculous circus catch. But with DK Metcalf there, they do become very exciting. Is Mike Williams still a Steeler as well? Because that must be one of the craziest free agent. That would be a crazy, like deep passing trio. DK, George Pickens, of Mike Williams. That would be a freakish wide receiver room. But yeah, we're moving on to the AFC in our next show, guys. We'll actually start with the AFC North, so more on the Steelers, more on what I don't know how we're going to even attempt to fix the Browns. Jay, it's going to be a problem. The Bengals, who again are in trouble, and the Ravens as well.
I'm pretty sure we'll know where Sam Darnold's going by the end of tomorrow. So
yeah, we'll also do a nice show recapping all the fun that happens tomorrow. Will Jerry Jones loosen the purse strings? Probably not. But stay tuned for more on that. Jay, send us out like you always do.
All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. Hit the like and subscribe. Go over and do the same thing at Overtime Hustling because they support us, so we support them. And make sure you go check out Buddy V, Zoo World or Zoel-World.com. Go get your merch. You can find him at Buddy V on Instagram. He does Motivational Mondays. Get your ass motivated on Mondays. Help you through the week. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. One world, one love. Deuces.
Cheerio.